Hi, and welcome to a new HOFA-College studio workshop. This time it's an interactive mixing workshop. You find the tracks for download in the description below the video. Maybe some of you have already downloaded it and already put the tracks into their DAW. We're gonna do this song. It's just an excerpt of the song. It's like a verse and a pre-chorus or chorus of the song. It is a recording that some of our apprentices in the HOFA studios did last year as a project for the school. And yeah, I mixed it for this workshop, so we have something to start with. But we, after listening to the somewhat rough or maybe even final mix, we're going to start from scratch. So everybody of you can take the tracks into their own DAW and work with it and maybe have some suggestions for me. We will see. So, okay, let's start by listening to the mix I prepared for this one.
Pages turn, but I stay the same. Watching the cloud, feeling blame. I keep replaying what I could have done, counting the stars that have already gone. Oh, lost hours, where did you go? Moments fade like Christmas in the snow. All these memories I can't rewind, chasing shadows I can't find.
Okay, that's the excerpt. Okay, let's start right away. When we start mixing, what do we think about? What do we start with? Normally, we have some kind of vision for a song. This one is a song that I didn't hear before I started mixing it. So I didn't do the recordings or the production, whatever. So it was a fresh start from scratch for me. And I had some different impressions from this song. First, there are the drums that are rock drums, but not hard or heavy rock drums. The guitars that are a little bit distorted, but they are not metal or grunge or really hard rock either. And the keyboards and the vocals that are rather melodic and harmonic. And this is not a song that needs to sound extremely punchy or aggressive. For me, it was a song that needed a sound that was spatial, deep, with some kind of depth and largeness. And that's what I try to do in this mix. And we will start from the raw tracks now and try to achieve this sound. It will not be exactly the way it sounds now in this mix, but I want to show you some ways to do that. And maybe some of you have some questions and want to interact with me. And so I start with a project that's already here. Step 1. So here we go. Come on. And activate it. That's the way a project comes up when you put in the tracks, and it's really some kind of unclear, and everything's somewhere in the project. There's no order, there's no structure, and we need to give the mix that structure before we really start listening to anything. So we have 29 tracks One of it being a MIDI track. We come to that later. If you have problems importing that MIDI track into your project, yeah, it's usually an easy thing to do. Just you use the import menu and import the MIDI file and just put it into the project. Do not create a new project. So yeah, that's about it. Okay, that's everything is gray. All the colors are the same. All the tracks looks the same. The DAW doesn't care whether they are drum tracks or guitars or whatever. And that's what usually is the first step for me, at least in my projects. I create a structure in the mix. And that's what I already prepared in the next step. That is this one. So we have some colors and we have an order in the tracks. And I'm really old school. I do the tracks the old way we started more than 30 years ago with the drums. And in the drums with bass drum and snare and the direct mics and then the overheads and the room mics. Then bass, then guitars, then the keyboards, then the vocals. It's really easy. Anybody can do it in any other way, but you need to have a structure in your mix, and that's my way of structuring things. But that's not a rule. It's just a habit. Let's say it like that. Okay. So, but now when we listen to this unmixed version of the recordings, we'll start from scratch, and we will hear that this is not something you turn on and it sounds good. Just listen. Okay, first thing we hear, the levels are rubbish. There's nothing, there's no musical structure, no musical hierarchy that has been fixed just by the recording levels. You can see, for example, that the bass here, it is much louder, even when I put it on the normal level, than, for example, the guitar clean or the acoustic guitars. So the bass has to be turned down, and that's what I start with, just by putting the levels down. At least 10 dB. That's a lot, but it is really much too loud. Okay, that's better. At least something is a little bit more balanced. There are drums, there's a bass, there are keyboards, an acoustic guitar, and vocals. I hear everything, even though it's not in a balanced way. At least there's not one instrument dominating everything. But that's really, of course, just a very, very rough first step. Okay, what's next? For me, the next step is just by going through the song, getting a picture of the song, and try to find out what's happening in the song. And yeah, the MIDI track, of course, is inactive. I don't need it. And yeah, just let's start going through the song. Next thing, I can't keep away from noticing the drums are very indirect. I can hear I can find two drum tracks, room tracks that are in this recording. Room processed is it called, and hallway, that's in the hallway of the studio, that's around the big recording room. I turn them off for now, just to get a more clear and more direct impression of the song. You can hear the difference, I guess. Watching the cloud, feeling blame. Still, the bass is a little bit too loud. I keep replaying what I could. Okay, something new's coming in. Guitars. These are the rhythm guitar. these here. Okay, there is a rhythm track and a double track, and I just turn them round. I want the original track that is not the double track to be the first one in the order. So this is rhythm and the double track. And of course, you can pan them to the left and the right. For a start, I do it really full pan left and full right. Even though it's a little bit starting phasey, it's okay for now. I won't keep it like that, I guess. So, and the next step when I go through the song is, for me, is to see something, to see the frequencies, the distribution of the tracks in the spectrum, and of course I need an analyzer to do that, and that's what I have in my where is it? Here, right, in this display. It's always like that in the workshops. I struggle with the small screens, and I'm used to having bigger screens for mixing, but you can handle that as well with a small screen if you have your various window layouts, and this is one with a project on the right side with a mixer in the left down and the analyzer here in the left up. And the guitar is now a little bit loud as well, the solo, the rhythm guitar. Where is it? These are the rhythm guitars. Okay, I turn them down a little bit. Okay. Okay, another thing's happening, and of course there are clippings. So I have to turn down the backing vocals, or even better, I turned them off because they were very loud.
Counting the stars that have already gone. Oh, lost hours with
Okay, now chaos again. There are guitars, the lick guitars and melody guitars that are competing a lot with the vocals. And again, for starting, I just turn them down or turn them off, mute them. Okay, so it's getting a little bit clearer at least, and it's getting a little bit more structured. And still there are some clippings, as you could see in the analyzer. So that's for me the point when I start thinking about, how can I get the sound that I want to, and what kind of sound is that? I talked about some kind of spatial and deep and wide sound. And yeah, that's got a lot to do with reverb and things like ambience tracks that we already have in the drum recordings. So my usual way to start in a song after I listen to the whole recordings, I start with the drums. But maybe you want to think about the other tracks as well, and think about the problems that might come up in the mix, and think about the different things you will have to do in a mix. And one thing that is really obvious, even just by looking at the recording, at the waveforms, is that the vocals are really dynamic. You heard it before when we went from the verse to the chorus, that the vocals as a whole got louder, but the main vocals also just have a much louder level than in the verses, and that is something we have to put into account for the whole mix. And to start with the dynamics of the song, that is really, there's a huge range of dynamics. The loud part is much fuller and much louder than the verse part, and some other things like the drums, for example, they do not play that much louder than the rest. So we probably will have to work with kind of automations or put things on different tracks just to get the levels right for every different part. Just for you to get a picture of that what's coming in the next 1.5 hours. Okay, first thing I really do in every track is in every mix, usually that's got more than, let's say, 10 tracks or something, is grouping things. I love working with groups for several reasons. For one, it makes mixing and leveling much easier. For example, if I have a drum group, a guitar group, and a vocal group, I can easily balance them without just a lot of hustling and a lot of faders going up and down. And that's what I do now with the drums. And it can easily be done in Cubase with a feature that is really cool. I like it a lot. Just by creating, oh shit, my software is still in German. I apologize for that. I change that later. Okay, I add a group to the selected tracks, and I call them drums. My system is to put all the group tracks or the group channels in capital letters and name them in a way that I can find them easily in the track, in the mixer. Here we go. So if I now press solo, I just have the drums. So that's one thing. And of course I can turn up or down the whole drums with just one fader. Okay, that makes leveling and balancing much easier. So the next thing I do, inside the drums there are groups as well. In this recording I won't do too many groups, just two. One for the bass drum or the kick and one for the snare drum. And because there are two different bass drum mics and two different snare mics, I don't group toms that are just two mics and they play just at the end of the song. I see no benefit in grouping them. And I don't group the room tracks either because they sound rather differently here. The drum room is already processed. I put some compression and filtering and stuff on it, so you don't have to worry about that. And the hallway is a completely different mic, so I don't group them. But groups for bass drums, just the same process. And for the snare. Again, capital letters. And of course, I forgot that now, just because of talking. You have to group the bass drum into the drum group and the snare drum, of course, as well. So they are still in the drums. Yes. Okay, there's a question. Okay, that's an interesting question. I'm a Cubase Pro user. In the latest version, there's the option Move to Folder with Group Channel. What would you advise, this option or indeed the Group Channel? I'm not sure yet. I of course tried putting this into a folder, and it was in the mix, the vinyl mix I did before, but it's still not free of, I won't say bugs, but it's not working flawlessly for me. And there are some things I don't find yet to be perfect for my workflow. So I love the function that you can use. I just do it. I put all the channels into a folder, and now you can unfold or fold them in that folder. In that is not a group but a folder. But I can turn now this folder into a group channel. Let's do this. And now I have a function that I can sync with the mixer. Okay, let's do that. And now when I fold the drums are folded in the mixer as well. And that's something that especially on small screens can be really time saving and ideal for a better workflow. But from another point of view, this folder is now also a channel in the mixer and a group channel, and all the signals are routed into that channel. And I love to have the same functionality I have on my usual mixer channels on my group channels. And still the automation of some features in this group folder channel is not yet perfect in Cubase. They have to still work on that. And for me, I won't work with that so far now, even if I love the general feature, but it's not yet perfect. But it will be, I guess. So I undo all that and now have my usual drum group again. So, okay, let's start with the bass drums. There are two channels, one of which is the inside mic, and the other one is a sub-kick, and you almost need a subwoofer for that because it's really down. It has a peak at 64 Hertz. It's not really absolute sub bass, but it's pretty low, and it's lower, of course, than the peak of the original inside mic. And I can use these two mics I can use these two mics to combine them and to use the sub mic for the really low end. I don't want too much low end. It's a mid-tempo song with 127 BPM, and it shouldn't be too boomy. There's a lot happening in the low end in this arrangement, so I don't want it to be too strong, but still I can use it. So I start with working on the inside mic, which is, it sounds pretty shaped already. And I don't know if the guys did something with EQ or in the preamp or something like that for the sound, but it sounds good. I think it's a Audix D6 mic that has that pre-shaped character. The first thing I want to do is get rid of this low end that's only noise, that's only rumble, that's moving air, that's hitting the microphone, and that is not a frequency I want to have here below 50 Hertz in that microphone. So I want to get rid of that. So I use a low cut, of course, but I need to put into account that we have two mics for the same instrument, and we need to watch on the phasing. If we look at the two channels, we can see that they're almost perfectly aligned, but the sub mic is completely out of phase. So that's another thing. I have to turn the phase of the sub mic That's here. Opala, where is it? Here. And then I have no phase issues. But if I put a filter, a low cut, on the one mic and use a very steep filter, this is not working in a linear phase mode, and that's not what I want. So I want to use an EQ for this channel that is capable of doing linear phase EQing. So I use this rather big EQ. I only use this EQ when I need a linear phase thing. Turn on linear phase capability and make it a cut with 24 hertz, 24 dB, and start at maybe 40 hertz, something like that. Okay, it's less, but it's still there. Okay, maybe get up a bit. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, and with this, I can combine the sub kick, and now I have a nice low end without any phase issues, and that's a good thing, of course. And I will keep it like that, except that I turn down the sub kick a bit because the low end is a bit too strong now. So because I can see the fundamental of the usual bass drum, the inside mic is here at this level, and when I activate the low kick, the sub kick, it gets a little bit louder in that range. Maybe I turn it even down a bit, just another dB. So I still have a stronger low end without getting boomy or too subby. And yeah, I turn on a EQ in the bass drum, and there are two things that I don't want to have. One thing that is always there in bass drums, that is here some kind of resonating frequency range around 400 or 500 hertz. This time it's 450. That is this frequency. Just makes it a little bit pupic. I always look for the English word for that. It sounds a bit, boxy. Okay, and I want maybe a slightly stronger attack without being too much. Around 4 kilohertz. That's for the transients, for the punch, and for the attack. But not that much, of course. And one thing, I talked about dynamics before, and when we look at the track, we can see that it starts a little bit quieter than it is in the end, especially the very last drum beat on the bass drum is a little bit louder. The same is true for the snares. So we need some compression. Okay. Good. Let's do that. Compression. No, sorry, that's the wrong one. Here we go. Okay. My default mode for the compressor is no ratio and no activity at all. So if I put it in, there's no difference between compression or no compression. So, and then I start setting the controls. I like the bass drum usually with a very short attack. I don't want to work out the transients. I want to control the dynamics. So I need a short attack and a not too slow, but not too fast either. Release time, something like that, around that. And a ratio that depends on how much I want to compress. And just look what's happening. Just look at the gain reduction. It's already at a point that I say, maybe that's too much for the loud parts. Okay, let's take a look at the last kick. Okay, something here. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We will see in the end. But that's a good point for starting. And that's about it, what I want to do with the bass drum. And I do similar things for the snare. I need compression, I need EQing, I need dynamic control, I need transients. And that's a lot to do. We can go step by step, but we don't have the time for that. So maybe I'm cheating a little bit and import the snare channel from the one I did in the mix before. Okay, where is it? Snare bottom, snare, and no events, but the automation as well. Okay, here we go. Okay. As I said, it's a little bit of cheating. Usually it takes longer. Okay, so now let's check that we have the same and the perfect routing, because I want those two tracks routed into the new snare group. There's not enough space on that screen, so where's it? Routing, here we go. Snare. Okay, and to the new snare. So here we go. Yeah. Okay, what did I do to get there? Just let me show you. So there's a little bit of EQing, I guess. Yeah, right, on the snare bottom. And there's also a low cut on the snare bottom, because I only want... Come on, play for me. It's too quiet. Sorry. Yeah, okay, here we go. That's the thing I want from the snare drum. And I don't want it to sound like that. I don't want the bass drum leaking, and I don't want them on that sound. I just want the the wires from the snare. And this is the snare signal, the top mic, and combined they sound like that. I turn down the button mic again. And inside the snare group, there are various plugins, an EQ to get a little bit a stronger fundamental tone, and a little bit less of the ringing, and a little bit less of the hi-hat leaking. But that's not that much because I also use a, where is it? A gate. Here we go. And that's working pretty good on this one here. Let me put up the volume a bit for this one. It's off. You can hear the other instruments like hi-hat, crashes and stuff. So it's pretty cool with a gate. It's just set to 55%, so I have a little bit of leaking, but much less than without a gate. And the next thing is a transient shaper. That's very effective here. Without this, it's just a rather boring snare drum sound. And this one activates the transients, make it sound punchy, and I must admit, it makes it a little bit louder too, of course. But it's much more here in the mix, and it's in your face, and it's really much more prominent and more audible. And in the end, I also add a little bit on the high end. And that's about it for this stage. Maybe something else will come in the end, but I think bass drum and snare now sound pretty cool. And you can see the fundamental range is at the same level with them in the frequency range, so that's a good point to control the levels of bass drum and snare. I usually like bass drum and snare to have the same energy, not to just hear the snare and no impulses from the bass drum. I want the bass drum to be the fundament of the song, both in a rhythmic but also in a sound-wise way, and I want the snare to be the backbeat. And in this song, of course, with that kind of Coldplay groove, the snare accents are really important. So yeah, that's bass drum and snare. And the next important things, of course, are the overheads.
Page is turned.
And it's always the same question you have to answer for yourself when you start working with the overheads. What is your approach for the drum recordings and the drum mix? Usually, I want the overheads to sound as natural as possible, but the fuller and an arrangement is, and the more things are happening in a mix, I need the place and the frequencies that are occupied by the overheads. And you also get a slightly more indirect sound when you turn up the overheads, and there are too many mid-range and low mid-range frequencies in the overheads. So in the end, I often, at least at pop rock songs, I start with EQing out the low mids and the low frequencies and in the overheads, and that's what we do here. So of course a low cut. Come on. No, wrong body. Here we go. Okay, now I have less mid range, but still the fundamental tone of the snare is rather loud, so I want to get rid of this. It's a little bit above of 200, 210 in this case. And there are different ways to do this. You can turn it down statically. What I sometimes do, and let's try it out for now, is to just turn down this frequency when it's happening, and that is when the snare is hit. And so I need a very fast attack. Look ahead is great when you have it. And okay, that's too much, of course. Makes the release a little bit slower. So you can see and maybe hear what's happening. The frequency at 200 Hertz is reduced when the snare is hit, and the reduction is going back to 0 when the snare is not being hit. And yeah, there's another frequency around here in the 600 Hertz range. That's for some kind of honkiness. Bonk. And turn this down as well. That's another snare frequency, the ringing. Okay, there's no bass drum and almost nothing of the snare left now in the overheads, but when you combine it with bass drum and snare, of course, you get a nice combination. And leveling the overheads I usually do in the louder parts with the cymbals. Try to find a part with the crashes. Okay, and here's the crash, I guess. Okay, that's not too loud. So keep it like that for now, and let's move on to the hi-hat, which is important in the verses. This one here. And I pretty much can do the same with the frequencies in the hi-hat that I did on the EQ on the overhead. So I just copy that EQ to the hi-hat channel and listen to what it sounds like. Okay, less leaking from the snare. That's okay for now. And pan it to the side where it's supposed to be. Okay, let's find out where the hi-hat is on the overheads. I'm not sure anymore. So you can see it usually in the waveform of the... Okay, here it is. It's not very loud on the overheads, the hi-hat, so I have to check out visually, and it's clear it's louder on the left channel, so I move the hi-hat a little bit to the left in the panorama. But not too much. It's not like it's only on the left side. Maybe 30-40%, something like that. I don't need the vocals now. Okay, now I have the bass drum, the snare, I have hi-hat and overheads. That's pretty much the basic groove of the song. Now I can start adding some ambience, some room sound. Just use the room mics, of course, that sound like this when you listen to them in solo. Pretty much filtered, pretty compressed. So I just turn it up slowly and listen when it sounds fine to my ears. Somewhere around here. Oh, sorry. -8, not +8. Maybe a little bit too much. Getting a bit rough. And the other ambience track is a hallway. Yeah, I love that sound. But it's only a color. It's not really a good sounding rendering of a drum set, but it's a nice color that can be added. But still I have to get rid of the low end. But you really can hear the distance the audio is going from the direct signals to the microphone, which is really a long, long way. And that's why I love those ambience mics and those hallway mics for drum recordings, because they add something to the sound that can't be done in the same way with a reverb. Reverbs are very important for mixing drums, but original natural drum tracks are just great to add some sound and character to the drums. But be careful, do not overdo it. It might be too much pretty fast. Okay, last thing I want to add to the drums is the reverb for the snare. Okay, here we go. Add an effect channel to the selected tracks. Of course, I use the IQ Reverb. I love that one. And I have the same system for the effects as for the groups. I use capital images, capital letters, and I route them into the drum group and not into the stereo mix or not into an effect group or whatever. I like to have the effects of a group routed into the same group channel. Okay, that's it. So the default reverb is not my favorite for snares. Not for this song. Okay, so I need another reverb, and I can show you the way I select or search for reverbs in the IQ series reverb. I usually know whether I want a large or a small or a mid-sized room, and for drums I usually use ambience or room size, not a church, not a hall, not a spring reverb either. So it's either ambi or room mics, and sometimes a plate, but not in this case, I guess. Then I have the usage. It's for drums, so I select the drum tagged reverbs, and I don't want them to be too long. So I don't need a 30-second reverb. I don't need a 3-second reverb either. I just usually not longer than 1.5, or in the most 2 seconds for a drum reverb, and not less than half a second. So it's already turned down to a few examples, and then I go through the reverbs, through the presets, and just try to find out what they sound like. That's without. That's a nice one. I didn't have that in my reverbs yet. And just go through, and there are so many, of course, but I came down to those 50 reverbs or 42, and in the end I came up with, let me look, storage room empty. Where is it? Here. It's around an RT60 of around 1 second. Just turn it up for a little for listening. if it's too loud, it sounds a little bit technical, but with the right level. Makes such a nice and suitable depth. And okay, let's maybe turn down the level of the snare, the send level to the reverb a little bit, but not much. And a little bit on the bass drum too. No, that's the wrong one, sorry, into the reverb. So you have to be careful with reverb on bass drums. In my opinion, it's really, if it's too loud, it sounds a little bit like a really bad sport hall reverb, open air, not open air concert sound, live sound. I don't want to have that in my studio production. So just a little bit to glue the drums together, and then we'll take a look at the drum sound as a whole. Okay, the toms are too loud, of course, but we don't need them right now. So. Okay, when combining reverb and room mics, you always have to balance them a little bit. And now with the active reverb, the hallway and the room mics are a little bit too loud, in my opinion. So I turn that down. And where are they? Here. Yeah, something like that. And that's it at this point for me with the drums. Maybe I start using some compressor on the drum group, but at this point I want to hear what it sounds like with the bass and the guitars. And yeah, let's go for that.
I keep replaying.
Don't need the other instrument. Okay, it's labeled bass DI because it was a DI track and it sounds like that. It has not a really strong low end and it's played with a pick, I think. But still, the fundamental range is there, and yeah, you can hear the attack nicely. It's not a bad sound, but still I would love to make it a bit more solid, a bit more stable, and maybe a little bit more colorful. And that's where saturation or amplification or whatever you want to name it comes in. And I use the color saturator for that because it has so nicely modeled amp models. And yeah, let's go for this. Here we go. And I want to use the model of a bass amp, which is included here, the bass tube amp. And yeah, just find out what it sounds like. Oh, that's too much. Okay, I have to go into the soft mode. Okay, not bad. But I still want a little bit more energy in the low end, so and clearness in the low end, so I get rid of the harmonics in the low frequencies, and this is compensated automatically. Less distortion, less saturation in the low frequencies, and the frequency itself is boosted. Maybe just a little bit. Or I can even move to the graphic EQ. Come on. Here we go. What's happening? Ah, here we go. Something like that. And it's a little bit too bright. I move back to the graphic mode. I like it better for this one. I don't need the very low end because there's not much. He's playing only in the range above 30 Hertz. So I don't want that frequency in there, so turn it down a little bit. And here as well. And low cut maybe, yeah. High cut, sorry. And also a very low cut for the very low frequencies, just to make the low end a little bit cleaner. And there we go. Maybe there's a little bit too much around here. Let's listen to the bass drum. Of course, the bass is too loud now. Keep it like that for now. Doesn't sound bad. Just adding some color, some saturation. That's making it also stable, so I don't need heavy compression on that track. There is some dynamic movement in the bass track. Come on. Here we go. No. You can see that the second part is a little bit louder, but it's played rather stable and rather constant, so we don't need more compression on this one. Okay, now we have to think about what instruments come next. I have the advantage of knowing what's in the track, and I decided that the keyboards are at least almost as important as the guitars. That's not always true for a pop rock band, but in this case, I think the keyboards, mainly piano, like the Rhodes and the real piano, are important parts of the song. The song starts with just drums, bass, keyboards and vocals, and a little bit of acoustic guitar, and the electric guitar come in later, so there is a clear information that the keyboard sounds need to be heard at least in the beginning, and that's what I decided to do. So I do not want to go on in the order of the project and move to the guitars and then to the guitar licks and then to the rhythm guitar and then to the piano, but I start with the piano as a next instrument. I must admit, as a sound alone, it sounds a little bit, too nice maybe, and that's why there is an additional keyboard sound that I really liked in this one. That's the Rhodes. And it combines to this a little bit warmer and nicer sound. Still, the keyboard is a little bit, the piano is a little bit too, let's say too nice. So I use the keyboard, the Rhodes sound, to add a little bit of grit, but also a little bit of space. And the Rhodes is a rather narrow sound. There's almost no stereo information, so I need some stereo information on this, and I need to get rid of this low mud around here, around 200 or below 200 Hertz. Okay. Low cut will suffice, I guess, but not 24 dB. And I need something to make it more stereo, and of course a chorus is a nice effect to make sounds stereo, and it's a nice effect for Rhodes especially. But that's too much. Okay, turn down. I guess you can hear the difference. And just look at the stereo goniometer, what's happening with the sound. It's not out of phase, it's not overly wide, but it's getting much more stereo. Okay, now it sounds wider, more stereo, and less beautiful than just the keyboard, the piano alone. What we can see and what we maybe heard is that the Rhodes is played very dynamic. Of course, I can use some compression on it, and I did that in the mix, but that will not be enough. I can tell from the really dynamic curve that the waveforms are taking. Okay. Fast attack, medium release, threshold, somewhere here. Okay, let's look at the loudest part. Okay, I can tell that I will need some automation, and I can, even at this early point in the mix, start by drawing some automation curves. I always can reduce them or repair them or remove them even if I want to later in the mix. But let's start with the automation here. Maybe like 6 dB from the beginning of this second half of the verse down to the intro, down to the beginning of the chorus. Okay, now it's time, I guess, for the guitars. And I want to start with the acoustic guitar because the song starts with the acoustic guitar. And we have to, have a nice intro sound for the song that sets the atmosphere for the song. So I need this guitar. It's a stereo recording. It's actually 2 mics, but it's not a double track, but it's just one guitar mic'd with 2 microphones. It's a little bit stereo, but it's not like this wide. It's more subtle stereo image. Maybe we can make it even wider with a stereo effect, stereo image or whatever. Okay, what do we have? There's a picking in the beginning. And a strumming in the louder part. And because I know that there are keyboards and the bass and distorted guitar and the lick guitar, there's a lot going on in the mid-range, and I need the acoustic guitar not for the fundamental tone range around 200 Hertz. That's not what I want from them. I need them for the color in the present range and in the upper mid-range, but even for the high end, but not for the fundamental tone range. So I can work with an EQ to make it a little bit leaner and not that full in the low mid-range. That's the start. Okay, we have 2 things here. There's something going on around 200 Hertz. That's pretty normal for acoustic guitars. And I can get rid of that. Maybe I use a dynamic EQ and I use a dynamic shelf EQ for all that in order to get rid of the at the attack of the guitars, but without taking away too much of the body. Let's look if that works. You can hear the difference, I guess. That's pretty nice. I like that. And I don't think I need that much more reduction, but there's something in the 500 Hertz range. Let's listen to this. Onk, onk, again. Okay, let's listen how it is combined with the bass and the keyboards. Okay, bass still a little bit too loud. Okay, move on to the electric guitar. The acoustic guitar works fine for me right now in this stage. Okay, you can hear that it's getting really wide. I said it before, I think it's a little bit too wide with 100% panning. I usually end up somewhere around something between 50 and 80% panning. For this rock song with a lot of things happening, I go for 80 right now. The one 80% to the left and the other one 80% to the right. And since it is a almost identically played doubled track, I group them into a group. Rhythm, get, or guitar, rhythm, better like that. Okay. And of course it needs an EQing. It was, I guess it was a ribbon mic. It's a little bit muffled, but still like the sound and the character of ribbon mics on crunch guitars. It's not really a heavy rock distorted guitars. And yeah, but it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. So what do we have there? EQ, of course. Oh, come on. Okay, so a typical range for guitars, for rhythm guitars to be cleaned up a little bit is around 300 hertz or between 200 and 300 hertz. And it's this is the case here as well. Here. That's the frequency. That's where the muddiness and the yeah, untidy sound comes from. Yeah, that's not bad. A little bit cleaner or tidier. There's something happening here in the upper mid range. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's cleaning it up as well. Okay, and in the end, add up some high shelf. Okay, you can hear what's happening, I guess. It's more precise, I can hear it more, and it doesn't make the whole mix blurry and diffuse and muddy. So I think this will work pretty nice. How loud does it have to be? Okay, so I leave out some of the tracks that are in the arrangement right now. I don't start with the lick and the three guitars, the lick guitars, octave, variation, and the main lick, because I know that they are played when the vocals are in the chorus, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the vocals. So I need to make clear the role of the vocals first before I start placing the lick guitar or the rhythm, the melodic guitars. If I see the guitars as the main instrument, I would go on with the guitars. But of course, in this song, the vocal is the leading instruments. So right now I'm at a point where I need to add or to start with the vocals. And yeah, that's not easy in this case. It's really nicely sung. It's a nice vocal line and it's a nice color in the voice, but it's very dynamic.
State the page has turned, but I stayed the same.
He's playing that bam, bam, bam. He's singing that again, and he's using the dynamics to give accents to the groove, and that's such an important part of the song. This pattern, da, ba, ga. And it's also there in the vocals, but still I need to tame the dynamics a bit, and I must say it's been a hard work for this one, and yeah, you can see that there are two tracks, one for the main verse and one for the verse and one for the chorus, and there are a lot of differences between these tracks either, and yeah, that's a little bit too much to do in 10 minutes of a workshop. So I just want to show you what I started with. Of course, EQing and compression, but the other things I did, I will show you in the end of the workshop, or in like 20 minutes or so, to when we go through the final mix, and you can watch at those processings. So EQing. No, I'm in the wrong window here. EQing. And especially when EQing and is needed for a very dynamic voice, it's of course useful to work with dynamic EQs, because the various resonances or frequency ranges that are there in a voice, in almost every voice, can be reduced much more musically with a dynamic EQ than with a static EQ. Okay, we need a low cut for the pops that are here and there happening, and the fundamental tone is somewhere around 140, which is is there a F sharp? Yeah, might be. It's an E. The song is in E, I guess.
But I stayed the same, watching the clock, feeling the...
When using a low cut on vocal tracks, be sure not to take away too much from the fundamental tone range. It's really important to keep this range well balanced. Sometimes it's too loud, then a low cut can be a nice idea here as well, but often you want the fundamental tone, the lowest tone, really to be strong and to be audible in the mix. So careful with low cuts on vocals. Okay, maybe I want to show you something I often do when EQing vocals, is I make a snapshot of the unprocessed voice, and this is the orange one here, and I try to get rid of the things that are not perfect for me. And this is mid-range in this case, which is quite dynamic. You can see the difference between the energy curve and the peak curve, and especially in the range between 1 and 2 kilohertz, there are loud peaks, and on the other hand, there's one frequency that stands out in the energy curve. That is this one at again an F sharp. So we go for this one first and listen. What is this one? No, vocals, verse.
Watching the clock.
Okay, I hear.
Feeling blame.
Okay, that's something I think we
I
can
keep replaying what
turn down
I could
general.
have done. Counting the stars.
But this one here at, yeah, somewhere around here. Come on, where are we? Yeah, that's typical. Somewhere between 300 and 400 hertz, there's always something in a voice. This one is a rather high vocal line, so it's a little bit higher than with the singer who's singing in the low range. Oh, not 24 dB. Sorry. Here we go. And we put this in dynamic mode. Look ahead is always great for vocals.
Watching the clock, feeling the blame. I keep replaying what I could have done. Counting the stars that have already gone. Watching the clock, feeling.
Okay, it's getting more balanced and cleaner. Let's take a look at the curve again.
Watching the clock, feeling the blame. I keep replaying what I could have done.
Okay, and there's something happening, I told before, here between 1 and 2 kilohertz. Maybe that's something we need to take a look at also.
Counting the stars that have already gone. Watching the clock, feeling the blame. I keep replaying what I could have done. Counting the stars that have already gone.
Okay, yeah, that's useful here. Maybe a little bit higher this frequency. And something I often do on vocals tracks when I work with dynamic EQing, I don't want them to reduce something like 12 or 15 dB, so I set a maximum level for the gain reduction for those two bands. It's band 3. Yeah, 8 dB maybe. We will see in the end. Come on, sing. Sing.
Watching the clock, feeling the blame. I keep replaying what I could have done. Counting the stars that have already gone.
Okay, and another thing that many singers have that do sing very often and have a trained voice is that they tend to rather loud frequencies around 3.5 or 4 kilohertz. And that's something that can get a little bit harsh and aggressive, and that needs to be tamed as well. But we'll take a look at that later. That we're getting into too much detail there. But you always have to watch at those frequencies. Low mid-range around 300 something hertz, depending on the vocal range. The mid-range around 600, 700, 800 hertz. The upper mid-range between 1 and 2 kilohertz, and then the high mid-range, even that's almost the beginning of the high frequencies, somewhere around 4 kilohertz. And these are important ranges, and they must be balanced, especially in a modern pop song where a vocal voice has to be very stable and very homogeneous and very consistent throughout the song. And that's something that needs dynamic EQing or smart EQing, and often it is also done with some saturation. I show you in a few minutes, but yeah, that's too much for this one. The next step here would be compression, of course, and I still love the old proved Vox set and forget preset. Usually I put down the level a little bit because that's 6 dB output or makeup gain is a little bit too much.
Watching the clock.
Let's go to the loudest spot. Oh, that's here.
I keep replaying what I could have done. Counting the stars.
Okay, that's too much.
That have already gone.
Okay. Somewhere right here.
I keep replaying what I could have done. Counting the stars that have already gone.
Yeah, that sounds nice to me. Reduction around 6, 7, sometimes 8 dB in loud parts, but very, not very obvious, just smooth and not audible compression. I don't hear the control times moving back and forth. I don't hear the reduction and the going back to the original level. That's very important when working with compressors. That's why an adaptive compressor with adaptive attack and release times, especially release times, is so important for vocals. And that's why I love this preset. And it's just great for almost any vocals, not rap vocals, but sung vocals. And it's great. Okay, the same has to be done for the chorus track.
Oh, lost out.
But it's much louder, so of course you have to adapt the processings to this level. And I usually start. Hey, what is this one doing here? Oh, I don't need it, and this one neither. Sorry, I need this one. Yeah, I don't need this one to get my windows clean. So here we go. Okay, and yeah, I usually copy the setting of the one vocal track to the next one. Here. Einstellung. Copy the settings of the first chosen channels. I didn't switch to English, I'm sorry. So, and paste it to the next one and just adapt it to the levels. So I probably, you can see the frequencies moved up a little bit because the singer is singing in a higher range, and the level is too loud, so the compression is too strong. So there are different ways to do this. I can either turn down the clip gain, or I can reduce the input gain of the channel or the input gain of the first plug-in, whatever. Just adapt to the different dynamic settings in the chorus, in the louder parts. And then there is a doubling track. We don't have to work on this one right now. And there are backing vocals, the harmony vocals on the chorus, and there's another choir. These are mixed together single tracks, various singers singing classical A or U vocals. It's very popular in pop music and for backing vocals. And in the end, they need to be positioned in the mix at various stages. Of course, the main vocals have to be in front. The double is a little bit behind the main vocal. It's just an add-on for the vocal track to make it a little bit bigger or fatter. And the backing vocals are behind and a little bit beside or aside of the vocals of the main vocal tracks. And the choir is very much in the background. It's just like filling up the end of the audible space. And that is something you can do, of course, with reverbs. You need different reverbs for that, with different pre-delay times. But you can also do that in addition or with additional delays. And a delay is very nice to add more depth without making the whole sound too indirect. I can show you that in the final mix. And you also need reverb for the instruments. And in the end, you have to group all these tracks like we did with the drums. We need an instrument group at least. I already put up a guitar rhythm group here, and we need an instrument group. I also always create a band group where the whole playback, if it's a band, is rooted into, and of course I need a vocal group. And that's the point where I would like to open up the mix project I showed you before and to go through the various settings after having seen the different single tracks in this start from scratch. I want to go back to the very beginning, if you don't mind. So just let me first save this one as in a copy. Here we go. And move back to my mix. Here we go. And activate it. Okay, I'm not sure about the level. I turn it down for now a little bit. Just so we are not blown away by the level.
Pages turn, but I stay the same. Watching the cloud, feeling the flame. I keep replaying what I could have done, counting the stars that have already gone. Oh, lost.
Okay, so let's take a closer look at some of the settings I have done here in this mix. And yeah, maybe you can be inspired by that for your own mixes or for your own version of that mix. You can see the drum, and yeah, in the very beginning of the workshop we talked about the group and folder function of Cubase, and in this mix I tried out using a group folder combination. I can show you, it's really nice. You can just fold it or unfold it in the mixer as well, and that's a nice feature. But what I didn't like about it is that you don't see the tracks in the project when you fold it together, and automation editing is some kind of pain in the ass, to be honest. It's usually you can mark these things and use the cursor to go to the next automation point, but this is not working here. I don't know why, it's just not working. And you can also not activate the level, the Lautstärke for the automation lane in this one. So it's still a little bit buggy. I think I see the I see the potential, but I do not think it's fully fulfilled the potential. That's why I did not really will use it in the next mixes, I guess, before the next update. Okay, so yeah, we've talked about the kick and bass drum already, snare drum already, and in this mix, I used the MIDI track of the snare as well, just to add an additional sample sound. But just only in a rather low level, and it's just the attack of the snare sound, and I really got rid of the fundamental range, which is rather low. And I just want to have that pack to add to the snare. That's without. And that's with a snare trigger. This is not a heavy rock song where the snare needs to be really edgy and crispy. It's more like a boof snare for me, at least. So the snare trigger is not really that loud, but it's a nice additional attack in the drums without being too much. Okay, the drums as a whole are combined in the drum group, and here I used some parallel compression, some parallel saturation, only a little bit, and some slight limiting, and the loudest part is doing like 2 dB, just cutting off the peaks. But still, this mixing of the drum group makes it much more spatial and deep. This is without, and this is with the group compression and saturation. Yeah, the bass, as I showed you, it's the color saturator with some EQings here in the bias EQ, and yeah, it's working great here, I think. Okay, let's come to the guitars. Now we start with the guitars, not with the keys. A little bit of compression in addition to the EQing. With a look ahead also, because I like it on strummed acoustic guitars to do the compression a little bit before the cram actually comes, and I don't want to get some artifacts from too slow compression. So look ahead for strummed guitars might be a good idea. And the EQing, I can show you that as well. Yeah, pretty much that what we've seen before. No dynamic EQing in this case. I didn't do it. I think I would turn to dynamic EQs in the end. The rhythm guitar. Yeah, you can see it's not too far from what we've did in the quick mix. And just turn it off and on again. I think it's pretty clear why I did that. And maybe you noticed there's a slight reverb on the guitars. Not too long, but audible in the acoustic guitar as well. Oh no, I didn't turn it on. Okay, not on the acoustic guitars. I usually, I eventually would use it in the mix, I think. And the guitar lick that's playing this stuff You can hear there's a delay, of course, and there's a lot of EQing happening in the mid-range just to clean them up and keep them away from the vocals. There's some mid-side EQing. I will talk about this soon. But there's not happening anything right now. And of course, there's a delay behind the compression. Okay, here we go. This time it's a quarter delay, and there's a little bit of phasing and a chorus, and yeah, it's for the effect, to put it a little bit in the background behind the vocals. And the compression I've been talking about, the mid-side compression, is side-chained by the vocals. And when I show you this in the listen mode, you can see this. Oh, come on. Here we go.
Like whisper.
Nee. Listen is not active. Okay, here we go. Every time the singer sings, the mid signal of the compression is reduced a little bit more than the side signal. That means there's more space in the stereo mid than on the sides. And if the singer is not singing, the guitar is getting a little bit louder again. This way I leave more room for the vocals. So, okay. And yeah, guitars are together with the keyboards put into the band group. The keyboards also have some reverb, the same reverb than the guitars, rather short plate reverb, plus a little bit of additional effect on these piano ads. They sound a little bit more spacey in the mix with this one. Okay. And the plate is this one here. I really like that one. I found it a few months ago in our really big IR packs, and this is a plate. The preset is called Brewery, and it's about 1 second long, and it's a nice, not too large reverb sound for instruments, for guitars, but keyboards as well. Just show you on the road maybe. Maybe here. Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah, and without. It's just the depth is missing, and the connection to the other instruments is missing, and all that together glues the instruments together, and the reverb and the leveling and the automation and of course the bass compression in the band channel is making for a really very dense vocal band sound. There's a little bit of compression, but only very, very little. And there's also in the complete band group a sidechain compression that is reducing the mid frequencies around 750 Hertz only in the mid channel again. And every time the singer is singing, this mid range is reduced a little bit in the mid of the stereo channel. Just it's a little bit confusing, I know, different mids. Okay, just look at this EQing and see what it's doing to understand what I'm talking about.
Watching the cloud.
It's reducing a little bit.
Blame I keep replaying what I could have done.
Okay, and it's of course a little bit more in the chorus parts.
Memories I can rewind, chasing shadows I can't find.
Just let me turn off this in the mix and you hear that it's very subtle, but still I think it's a little bit, it's working effectively.
The snow,
Without
all these memories I can
and with.
rewind, chasing shadows I can't find.
Just a little bit more space for the mid frequencies of the singer in the band arrangement without pumping all the time and reducing the mid range in a heavy way. Yeah, and let's move on to the vocals. Just check out the time. Yeah, it's almost perfect. We got another 10 minutes left. Okay, yeah. I talked about that it's quite a lot to do in the vocals. And yeah, it's EQing. I showed you that at least a little bit. Mid-range controlling, dynamic EQing at different stages of the mids, and with different max gain reduction levels for those active bands, 6 dB, and then a compression. Almost what I said before, it's like not more than 8 dB. And then a de-esser. We didn't talk about this so far, but it's really important in many vocal mixes to use a de-esser to get rid of the loud S's. But in the end, I came up really, started reducing some very harsh and sharp S manually in the mix. Just let me show you this. Where is it here? And the verses, they are really loud. And yeah, I did it by just cutting the S's and reducing with the clip level. Yeah, here you can see this one is at -7 dB. This is the S, and this is the word. And I also try to use a rather new version of, or a new tool in Cubase with this gaining pencil tool. I must admit I'm not a huge fan of this. In my way, it's a little bit too complicated. You need the pencil tool to edit them, and it's a lot of fiddling around, and it's not fast. And I must say I'm faster with just let me do this. Just a second. So this one. Oops, no, I just want to get rid. Oh, come on. Here, this one at 0 dB. Okay. And I think I'm faster with just cutting this and this, making with a mouse wheel the level I want to, set a crossfade with X, and that's it. It's faster. No, this one is a sh, or j is not as loud as a. So.
Watching the cloud, feeling blame.
And of course, there are effects on the vocals. There's a reverb here.
I keep replaying what I could have done.
In combination with the delay, That's again the color delay. For this one, I've chosen dotted quarter notes because it interacts with the rhythm of the song, these dotted notes, and I like that on the vocals more than normal quarter notes. And the reverb is a somewhat longer haul or reverb than the ones on drums and instruments. That's not standard, but yeah, many engineers do that to use longer reverbs for the vocals than for the instruments, and to add some delay for even more depth and more wideness in the mix. And yeah, that's working fine for me in this song. Combination.
Counting the stars
With a double track.
that have already gone. Oh, lost hours, where did you go? Moment.
The delay is using the ducking function, by the way. That's very interesting here. So that the delay is louder when when the singer is not singing, and it's attenuated a little bit by 10 dB when the singer's singing. So just look here at the level here, what is happening with the delay level.
That have already gone. Oh, lost hours, where did you go?
And here in the breaks and in the pauses between the phrases, the delay is louder, and when he's singing, it's not as loud, so it doesn't get too blurry or too diffuse. And in the end, there is another EQ happening in the vocal group. Just some tiny dynamic corrections of the various mid-range and high mid-range frequencies, but only with a max gain reduction of 3 or 4 dB. And a slight compression in the vocal group.
Moments fade.
With a max reduction level of 2 dB. Let's move on to the backing vocals for a short time now.
Like whispers.
In the snow.
Of course, they're panned a little bit, but not extremely left-right. They have reverb. The reverb is the same effect as the normal lead vocal reverb, but without a pre-delay. The lead vocal reverb has a pre-delay of, I think, around 80 milliseconds. 80 milliseconds, right. And finally, yeah, the vocal choir. There it is. I mainly focused on putting them in the back of the mix and behind the main vocals, behind the backing vocals, and behind the rest of the band. It's almost only reverb. The reverb level or send level is set to 0 dB, so the reverb is as loud as the vocals themselves, and that's why it's so far behind the lead vocals.
All these memories I can't rewind. Chasing shadows I can't find.
And I've been talking about one thing before, automations, fader automation, level automations. And that's another important thing you have to do in this song to control the dynamic of the performance, not everything that is dynamic can be controlled with compression or saturation. Sometimes it's better and it's easier and it sounds better to work with automations, either fader automations. They are usually after the compression, and sometimes clip gain, like I did with the sibilants on the vocals, in order to move to reduce the level in front of or before the compression is taken in. And that's something that is quite important, that you understand the difference between clip gain and fader automation, and also really important that you understand the necessity, that it's necessary to work with automations. When you look at the Rhodes, for example, there's some heavy reduction here happening in the quieter in the start of the louder part, or in the transition to the louder part. Just look at the Rhodes automation and focus on the Rhodes when listening to it.
Being what I could have done, counting the stars that have already gone. Oh, lost hours, where did you go? Moments fade like Christmas in the snow.
Yeah. And that's it from my part for this song for today. And if there's anything left you want to know, now's the time. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. You work with the tracks for yourself and try to find out something about the different ways of group compression, of working with groups and working with compression, EQs, reverbs. In this song, it's really a lot of the mixing process is about reverb and spatial depth and finding the right amount of space and effect for the different tracks. I don't think this is a perfect mix. I didn't work for days on that mix, but I think that the character of the song needs something like this. Maybe it would be interesting to make a more direct and more guitar-oriented version of the song. Try to find out. Maybe if you get a mix done with more guitars and less reverb, send me a copy. I'm interested. And yeah, that's it for now. For everybody who's working, who's already studying in the online campus, enjoy learning there. And everybody who's not familiar with our courses, take a look at HOFA-College.com and find out more about our audio engineering courses and the possibilities even to make a Bachelor of Science and degree and to learn how to work in a professional way as an audio engineer. So that's it from me. I wish you a nice evening or a nice day wherever you are, and see you next time. Bye-bye.